Happy Easter, everyone. It's Good Friday. To all the Christians around the world celebrating, we hope that today you take a minute to reflect on the life of Jesus and the death of Jesus, and that you think about what the sacrifice means to you and the quality of life that you lead. Welcome to Breakfast Central. I am Olive MOD.
It's Good Friday. It's another Friday here on Breakfast Central. We welcome you. We have quite a lot for you. Quite an eventful week in the country as we speak. And news is that Mr. President is spending Easter in Paris. I mean, words on the streets. I listened to some kids yesterday reciting countries and capitals. They said Ghana, Accra, Togo, Lomé, Chad, N'Djamena. And then when it came to Nigeria, guess what they said? Nigeria, Paris. Why? Because Mr. President is still on that working visit. It must be the coffee or the croissant.
Yeah, les croissants. Oui, les croissants. Bonjour. Je m'appelle Johansson, and it's good to have you join us. And I want to stand on
existing protocol.
Existing protocols.
Wow.
It's good. Great things are happening. At the same time, worry is a word that comes upon the mind of every single individual interested in a particular story that's got to do with a Senate president and, of course, Senator Natasha. I'm sure you guys saw the updates yesterday.
They're quite worrying.
Yes. But anyway, as we welcome you, welcome to today's edition. Olive, I think I'm going to just leave you to, run through some of the big stories.
I'll take us through the brilliant news that we have today. Good news is that the young boy who we talked about on the show, Quadri, has been finally released. Remember the picture of the young man who was standing in front of Peter Obi's convoy during the campaign at the last elections, how he was arrested, and part of why he was arrested was because the area boys had said that he did not give them their own share of the exciting things that he got. Their own cut, exactly. He didn't give them their own cut from the loot. It's not even loot, from the goodies. Because in their head.
They wanted to reap where they didn't sow, and it was fate. It wasn't even planned. It was just a spur of the moment thing that happened, and it became famous.
Now, this boy was arrested. Just to bring you to speed, that's the picture where he went viral. He then got to meet Peter Obi, and they said they wanted their own share of whatever it is that he got. In fact, according to reports, it was said that the Bale had asked his mother to buy a cow, cook rice for the whole community. When he refused, the young man was arrested and had been kept in prison for months. He was in fact arrested, attached to 3 grown adults, and they accused them of all sorts of things, and he had been in Kirikiri prison. This matter was brought to light by a young woman, a young activist. Her name is on Twitter is Hausa_girl. She's the co-founder of Hope_PO. So she brought this to light, and after that, Inibehe Effiong and some other lawyers jumped into action. The good news we have is that he has been released. Now, beyond him being released, Inibehe is asking for a number of reliefs. He's asking that the Nigerian police pay 100 million to his family for compensation. But let's take a listen to this video.
The proceedings before Court 9, Magistrate Court Apapa. We came this morning regarding the case of Alabi Quadri, a 17-year-old teenager who came to fame in 2023 during the election when he spontaneously jumped and stood in front of the convoy of the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi. You would recall that his photograph at the time became an internet sensation, and Nigerians became very interested in his case. Following that, a lot of people made donations to him, and his matter was widely reported. Quite sadly, people in the community some people in the community, so-called area boys, felt entitled to be settled in quote, or to be appeased, and they demanded that part of the monies you donated to Quadri be given to them. In fact, I can also tell you that the value of that community specifically told Quadri's mother to buy a cow with rice and cook to appease the youth. Because they refused to do this, this family has been continuously witch-hunted since 2023. Let me also place on record that this was the second time that Quadri has been arrested. The first time, the same area boys took him before the same valley of the community, invited police to arrest him. At that time, we did not hear about it.
And that's Inibehe Effiong giving us a detailed report of what has happened so far up until where we are now. Their demand is that the Nigerian police force should pay the sum of 100 million naira to Quadri's family as compensation. They also demand a public apology from the police. And they have also asked that the Commissioner of Police Lagos State Command and the Inspector General of Police should, as a matter of urgency, remove the DPO of Amukoko Divisional Headquarters and subject him to orderly room trial, along with the IPO, one Inspector Odigbe Samuel, and other officers who participated in this evil, sinister, oppressive, and corrupt scheme of framing up a teenager for armed robbery at the behest of rogue area boys. These are his demands. And he said that if the above three remedial demands are not fully complied with, immediately they will seek legal redress.
I agree.
Absolutely.
I agree. Absolutely. It should be a legal redress immediately. Olive, I mean,
The first time this story broke, we didn't even know it had these layers.
No, yeah, I mean, we had mentioned that, we didn't know that the ballet was involved asking someone to buy cow or goat for the community.
What an entitlement.
How? Who made you...
how do you even know what transpired between Peter Obi's camp and this boy?
Let's even remove politics from the entire scene. Did you know that young man before he went in front of Peter Obi's convoy?
Because he took a picture, they took a picture of him and Peter Obi, a picture that he did not even pose for. A photographer, I don't know which photographer, shout out to that photographer, but that picture has now caused problems. It's just
the sense of entitlement and poverty mentality is starting to become...
And it's part of what you said about those street urchins you've been seeing lately, everyone just begging.
They have they see your car, they say, come, you have to give us some... Who are you?
It's why those squidgy boys, when they try to clean your car, if you refuse, just before the light turns green, they will spray dirty water on your car.
Yes.
So it's like, come and do your work. So you refuse to give us money.
We really need to do something about it. And the Nigerian police, again, in the news for the wrong reasons. Some bad eggs in the Nigerian police. I mean, what sorts of DPO do you have? Don't you look at the case file? Why do you frame... And shout out, and thank God for social media.
Thank God for...
And social media is not a terrorist organization.
Thank you for Inibehe Effiong as well.
Inibehe Effiong and the household girl that...
So once we talked about, yesterday we talked about the Sultan saying that social media is a terrorist organization. Social media has done more.
No, this is what it has done.
Good. Because if not for social media, we would not be aware of the story. You know, the story would not come to public light. He would not have been released from Kirikiri yet. And the help that is being sought for him and his family will not be, you know, sought. Speaking of help, Inibehe has decided to raise funds for the young man and his family to relocate them from that area. And if you take Inibehe Effiong's page, he has the account details pasted. As at my last check, they had raised 3 million naira.
Yeah, and they need to do something about that ballet. You know, it reminds me of that offer that was insulted. I really don't know. Everybody just give them a little power. They think their institutions, they assume godlike behavior. It's just terrible.
It's sad. I mean, that's the tweet from Inibehe there, talking about what happened, giving us all the details in summary, and then of course saying that in addition to the necessity of relocation, the mother, who is a petty trader, has also pleaded to Nigerians to assist. And I'm very sure that if you're watching this program, would urge you to please head straight. You could see the account details. I mean, our job as journalists is also to ensure that we bring a full circle of a story, make sure that it's well balanced and detailed, and then we also share it with every viewer. If you know this story, like you followed us and you could hear, it's something that I'm sure you would not be happy about on a Friday, which of course is called the Good Friday. You will not be happy about it. I have a problem with this story, and I think the name of the DPO should actually be, I mean, for members of the press, it's high time we do a profile on the DPO. Let's put his picture out there. Let's write. Let's know
the duty of the protest.
Let's get to know. That's your job. Your job is to protect, not being used.
Not being used to victimize.
And there's no way on earth they would say that while that DPO was carrying out, I mean, in quotes, as is alleged, that there were not some officers around who ensured that this happened.
That's why Inibehe has asked that not just like all the officers involved, you know, be made to...
And it's really sad that, but I agree with them that they have to leave the community, because it hadn't escalated to this level and they're already victimized. So imagine what the body will be thinking, and all those area boys that, oh, you went to report us. So it's high time they leave that community. But it's pathetic that they have to leave, because the government should protect them, and no Nigerian should live in fear.
Again, we have failed them. This is another situation
in
where Nigeria has failed.
I think the IGP should be aware of this story.
I'm sure he's aware. There's nobody can say he's
I think we're going to call on your name. Please, this story, I'm sure you've heard of it. You should take interest in this story. And I like the fact that the lawyers I also saw a tweet about some lawyers I heard were willing to also offer any form of service and so on to help the young lad. And I'm like, oh, this is good as well. And I think it's high time they do that. Maybe if the police officers and the DPO, if they're sued and they're taken to court, and then at the end of the day, they have to cough out the sum of maybe, let's say, 5 million, because of course,
they've asked for 100 million. That's what they've asked for.
I don't think that's possible.
The Nigerian police has been asked to pay 100 million.
But I'm sure by the time they do that, it will now become a case, a clear indication that, listen, any police officer who engages in this act, I mean, this is, come on.
It's terrible.
It's small boy.
I will follow up. We don't, I hope this is not the last of the case. Those that threaten and victimize this boy need to face justice. But moving on
Just to mention again, since we're talking about the names of the police officers involved, according to the post by Inibehe, he's talked about the DPO of Amukoko Divisional Headquarters. And he's also talked about Inspector Odigbe Samuel and other officers who participated in this. We need to ensure that they have questions to answer. They've been made to face a court. You can't arrest a young boy, frame him for robbery, and then throw him into prison. That's not how it works. And shout out to the justice system for being able to do the right thing at this time. But let's move on to Kogi State.
Yes, and talking about Kogi State, the gunmen invaded the residence of Senator Natasha Uduaghan's family in Kogi State. I thought we took a break from Senator Natasha Uduaghan in the news cycle, but apparently it's not going anywhere. And she tweeted yesterday, she posted on our Instagram that, look, if anything happens to me, hold the Senate President, Senator Godswill Akpabio, the Kogi State Governor Dodo, and also Yaya Bello responsible. I reiterate, should any harm, calling on the Nigerian police before me, Nigerian Senate President Godswill Akpabio, ex-Governor Yaya Bello, and Governor Usman Dodo of Kogi State should be held responsible, says Senator Natasha Uduaghan.
She's now dealing with 3 people. When this case started, it was her and versus the Senate President Godswill Akpabio. And now it's escalated to dealing with a former governor in whom they were not in good terms. We recall the battle between Senator Natasha and the White Lion. Now, she's also dealing with the current governor of the state, who happens to be Governor Odudo. So, put them together, one woman dealing with 3 people. And to top it all up, her security detail.
3 highly connected.
3 highly connected. Because if you live in Nigeria, you know what we were saying by that word. And her security detail was taken from her. Remember the argument in the National Assembly where the Senate President said, one of the senators had stood up and said, possibly they should take away her security. She's still a senator. So why would you take away her security detail? And if that, as we hear, was done, how would she move around? Obviously, she needs to get a private security.
She's exposed to danger.
Of course, to protect her. But then again, we saw this story. I have a mixed feeling about this story, personally.
Why do you?
My mixed feeling is, we don't know who they are. We don't know if they were set, because they're unknown gunmen. We don't know if they were sent. We don't know if they just decided to do it on their own. We don't know if the story really has, we don't really have the true detail of this story.
We don't.
That's what I feel.
So
But
that's
the
why
truth
she's
is-
calling on the police to
Yes.
carry out their investigation.
Yes.
And it's important. I think it's very important that the police carries out an investigation and gets to the bottom of the case, because, like you said, we really don't know. It could be anybody. It could be, yes, her allegations might be pointing to what the truth is. It could also be somebody who knows the Senate president is under fire and wants to make him look bad for it. You know, and then
that is where I was going
then
to.
carry this out.
That's where I was going to.
Put accusing fingers.
So you don't really know.
Point a finger or put a target on his back. So we really don't know what the position is. The most important thing for us is that she's safe, her family is safe. We hope that this will be investigated, that the perpetrators will be brought to book, and that her security detail will be tightened. You know, that's really what our concern is for her now. We certainly wish her all the best, and we hope that this can be brought to rest in the nearest possible future.
Absolutely.
But now let's move on to our final story. Now, this final story, quite interesting one, talking about so there was a report. The report was stating that a number of Nigerians did not trust the government. I did see that report, and it was a trust barometer talking about how 7 in 10 Nigerians, I believe, did not trust the fact that...
That's a huge trust deficit.
So I'm going to actually look at the exact one. We're talking about the deficit, and I'm hoping that, you know, we can go into the details of this at a much later conversation.
I think one of the reasons why, I mean, government says something, they don't follow through their promises. Politicians promise heaven on earth during electioneering campaigns.
Absolutely. And talking about trust, just yesterday, there was a huge circular. I think I saw that circular in the evening yesterday, that the police were able to arrest a huge, let me use the word, huge number of Boko Haram members in Lagos. That story spread so much like wildfire yesterday. They said the police officers arrested them. They were spotted. These were members of, Boko Haram and so on, and they were wondering how they got into Lagos. So the police swung into action and so on. But the update simply is that this morning the police have debunked arrest of Boko Haram members, or Boko Haram, if you put it that way, like the story was circulating in Lagos. They say that story does not exist. It was not
so the circular
going to happen.
The circular that was out yesterday was signed by...
So that story, they said it wasn't real. It wasn't true. It was fake. That's why they came out to put it out there and say, listen, there's no such story in Lagos. There's nothing like that ever happened. And it's gotten everyone talking. Is it true? Is it a lie? Are we starting to see insecurity trickle down? You know, let me say this here. The fear of mixing politics with reality is that it could boomerang and start to spin off things that are unexpected.
And it blurs the line. So you don't know what is the actual situation.
So we're now politicizing stories, looking at the fact that we're already dealing with insecurity issues. As far as we know, in the southwest, in the southeast, in the middle belt, in the up north, we're dealing with that. So is this also going to drive attention to the fact that we also have the same problem in somewhere in the southwest as well, which happens to be the economic capital of Nigeria?
You know, the responsible thing for the police to do is what they've done, but we need more details. It's one thing to release a statement saying, you know, we debunk the arrest of Boko Haram in Lagos, but it's another thing to give detailed analysis. I mean, trace where this rumor emanated from. Give assurance to the populace that there's nothing like this. Assuade the citizens that Lagos is open for business. There are no security threats. We've done a thorough investigation. And what people might have thought was Boko Haram is XYZ.
That's right.
Well, failure to do that, I mean, you only leave room for speculations. It's beyond just releasing a statement.
Absolutely. Let me quickly run through that statement for the benefit of our viewers there. It says that hundreds of Boko Haram suspects arrested in Lagos. Well, the Lagos State Police Command writes to debunk a Punch newspaper, publication that was dated April 17, 2025, asserting that hundreds of Boko Haram suspects have been arrested in Lagos. Now, following the publication, the Commissioner of Police, Lagos State Command, CP Olohundare Jimo, yes, directed an immediate investigation into the report to actually ascertain the true position of the claim. Now, it went on to say the outcome of the investigation revealed that there is nowhere throughout Lagos State that the group mentioned in the report Boko Haram was seen or indeed cited, talking about even arrested. So I think it calls for us to be very careful on how we share stories, especially on that platform, WhatsApp. You know, when messages drop there, you know, before the message, you know, goes to the third person, to the 10th, it's changed. The narration has changed. Because it was a Punch article on the 17th, and before it gets to the 10th person, they say, oh, Boko Haram suspects spotted. And I saw that yesterday. Someone sent it.
We just need to be careful, you know, with sharing messages, because we know that even our moms, our parents are very interested with WhatsApp. Once it gets to them, I know how many times I've had to tell my mother, Mommy, that's fake news. This is wrong. This is not true. Especially Facebook people.
My mother has used me as a fact checker. She sends it to me. She says, Gbenga, is this true?
And I like that. That's a good one.
Facebook is such a wonderful platform. A number of these platforms are wonderful, but some of the people on these platforms are the ones that manipulated information. So please, all those people that are doing it for clicks, because you know people are going to pay. Set our own cloud chasers. People need to calm down. Because the ones that are giving media a bad name, making media. Going back to that trust, and I'm sure we'll have that conversation much later. There was a report that showed that individuals, 70% of Nigerians didn't trust government, and that they didn't trust media as well, and they believe that there's an intention to deliberately mislead the public. And it is stories like this that further, you know, heighten such. So please, let's do better, all right?
And permit me to also give a shout out to the police. You know, while we're talking about the police in a bad light, not doing well in the case of the young lad who was arrested indiscriminately. The police, when they heard about the Boko Haram story, after taking a look at it in the Punch, and find that it wasn't true, they didn't leave it just like that. They swung into action. They deployed a few investigators who went round, and they were able to say there was no such thing. So we give kudos to that. I mean, it's much more like saying, oh, yes, we heard, and nothing was done. But we heard, and we can ascertain that there's nothing, because we combed every single place. And that's it. And finally, just to add, guys, Nigeria is tensed now. So we have to be careful and mindful of the stories that we see and hear. If you don't hear it from News Central, if it's not clarified here as well, or any fact-checking platform, please be very careful. There's disinformation and misinformation out there. You might as well be part of those who is heating up the polity by sending wrong messages or information or news that isn't true. And I'm sure we have a program here on News Central that helps you to indeed fact-check stories, which is the proof. So make sure you watch it, all right?
And Olive, shout out to you for defending journalists by using that trust barometer index. I hope you're not suffering from partisan obscurantism.
That shout out to our guest, what's his name? Demola. Yes. I love our guests. They come and they teach us new words. But thank you so much for joining us this morning on Wake Up Conversations, and we hope that you're enjoying your Easter holiday.